Have you ever heard of the expression that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience? Well, I have. And for the longest time, that expression really puzzled me because it kind of made being spiritual superior to being physical. And the more I dig deep into spirituality and faith, the more I realize that neither one of them is superior. They're just two different states of the same thing. So today I would like to cover why I think we are here, why I think we exist, and who are human beings in the great scheme of things. Because we tend to think about our world from our perspective. But if you take a step back and you look at how amazingly big the universe is, you have to wonder, how did we come to be? And I am not going to debate the evolution or how God created man. That is so not the purpose of this video. But I would like to show you that maybe being spiritual and being physical are not two separate things. They're actually the same thing. They're just two different facades of the same coin. So here we go. First, it says that God created heaven and earth. And I really looked into that because when you hear the word heaven, a lot of us have wonderful things associated with the word heaven. It feels like it's perfect, it's amazing, it's beautiful. But if God created it, it's still separate from God, right? So it's not God yet. Heaven is almost like the door to God. It's almost like where you go before you meet God. Something like that, right? And there have been many different alliteration of that expression. Then there is earth. And if you take the literal translation of the word that was used in the Bible, it really means the land. And I love that actually, because to me, what that is saying is that God created us both as spiritual and physical, heaven and earth. So there's a part of us that is in heaven, that is spiritual, and there's a part of us that is on earth, and that is our body. But why? Why would he need to create such a thing? So now we're going to leave the Christian faith a little bit on the side, because this is where my experience with other forms and other spirituality other than Christianity has really helped me develop a belief there. I actually believe that because God includes everything, it cannot know itself unless it knows separation. So basically, unless God or the goddess or the universe voluntarily chooses to separate itself into different pieces, heaven, earth, men, men, women, animals, vegetables, all of that, unless it does that, it cannot know itself. And more also, there's something that it is also between the physical and the spiritual, and for me that is the emotional. In fact, I made a video last week about emotions, and you should go check it out if you haven't yet. But for me, the emotions are really the connections between spiritual and physical. It kind of is a physical representation of something spiritual. So really, God, first of all, God has created something amazing, because none of it was left out. All of it, even though there is separation, there is connection between each parts of that are separated. So it is important to look at it this way, to see that there's no superior aspect to it. It's not because you are on the physical plane on earth that you're not close to God, and it's not because you are close to God in heaven, or not close to God, sorry. It's not because you are in heaven that you are not close to the people on the land, the people on earth. There is absolutely a connection, and it's communicating all the time. So I'm very blessed to have a pastor who actually has taught little kids. So she really has wonderful ways to express things for people like me who need very simple instructions. And one of the ways she had us think about this was we were sitting in heaven and our feet were on the earth. And so we were always in the two places at once. And a lot of times we think we are our feet. A lot of times we think with our feet when really we should be connecting to the part of us that is up in heaven and is communicating with our feet, and vice versa. So when you think about it this way, there's absolutely no separation, and there's not a right way or a wrong way. And you remember a few weeks, actually I think it was last week too, where I talked about the body and how the body is giving you messages. So think about this. If the body is connected to your spirit, those messages can be spiritual, right? It's not because your body is saying something very physical that it cannot be spiritual as well. All right. So that is for the overall system. That is for what is happening. Now, I know that people talk about evolving towards something more spiritual, that as spiritual beings, we want to pretty much go up or, change our etheric bodies, all kind of things like that. Okay. Now, I actually believe that we are born with everything that we need. There is nothing about us that's missing, and it's more like there are situations where we're going to need this part of ourselves, and then other situations where we're going to need this part of ourselves. So the way that I see it is not so much that we are evolving or that we are even learning, because I'm not sure that there are lessons to be learned. It is more about expressing ourselves. So that's why, for me, if you prevent me from being creative, if you prevent me from making videos or painting, things like that, then I feel like I feel very depressed. I cannot be myself fully. And that is the purpose of being a spiritual being, having a physical experience, is that we can express all of ourselves. And there is not one part of ourselves that does not deserve to be expressed. And yes, I mean anger, I mean, all the things that sometimes we push down because when you're really fully engaged into who you are, all of those parts, they actually serve the whole piece. So I'm going to give you a little story. I'm somebody who, since I was a child, I cannot stand injustice. Injustice for me is like, it triggers something in me that is, it just makes me explode. And I was sharing with a friend of mine that my daughter was going to be in a situation where one of the children in her class may have to be kicked out of the class, and I could feel the injustice in this. Even though that child was not my child, I told my daughter, if that's the case, you let me know, because I'm going to do something about it. And I was so adamant and I was so passionate about it. And I have to say, I was not, I've been told many times, calm down, teachers know better, administration knows better. But my friend said to me that I was sharing this with, my friend said, hold on, that's amazing that you actually will care so much about this child that is not yours, that you will go after this and make it a better situation for them. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. So if I did not feel that anger, if I did not feel that anger, if I did not feel that sense of injustice and that energy rise up, then there are situations in the world that I would not go and fix. So there are negative emotions that sometimes are completely required to make things change, to make things move. So as a spiritual being, I may still feel anger, I may still feel things that I'm not supposed to feel, and that is absolutely appropriate. And I feel if only we could rely on ourselves, if only we could trust ourselves a little bit more, not only would we have a better life because we would actually make the choices that are required to have a better life, but we would also make the world a better place. So, to conclude all of this, if you are willing to consider yourself not only a spiritual being having a physical experience, but also a physical being having a spiritual experience, then you may actually move forward in so many of your dreams. You may actually receive way more than you have ever received before. If you have any questions about how to do that, I am happy to speak with you. Don't hesitate to put a comment below or contact me directly, because this is something I'm very passionate about. And I know someday, one day somebody asked me, what's the one topic you can talk forever on and not be stopped? And that is being yourself. Because for me, if you're being 100% yourself, then you've got it. Not only you've got it, but life will be so much easier. And that is not always what we are being taught to do. All right, so this is what I wanted to share with you today. If you have any topics that you'd like me to cover, please make a comment below, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.